Okay, so 4th of July is coming up, and I want to make some food for the family, even though I'm going to be missing out on most of the festivities, because I work for the corporation who shall not be named. Alright, so this is Charro. When you've got, Tex-Mex or Southwestern food, obviously refried beans, even here in California, is by far the most common pinto-based dish. Charro is the other side of the coin. It's more like a bean stew than a bean mush stuff. So you can use it in different ways. Obviously, either one of the dishes could be used to supplement a burrito or other kind of foods, things like this. What I've got here is about 3 pounds of pinto beans, which I've picked through and kind of washed a little bit, and pick through, look for real bad ones, things like that. What we're going to do is add them to our pot. Oh, I'm sorry. 3 pounds of pinto beans is a big amount of beans. But like I said, I'm making this for 4th of July, so we're assuming a lot of diners. I think normally if I was just going to be making it for my family, I would probably cut this down to 1 pound of beans. And even that, with just the 4 of us, I would assume that I would have some leftovers. So we have our rinsed, picked through beans. You can see I missed a few here. We got a floater that's beans that are split in half. I don't necessarily think are bad, but whatever. Anyway, so we're going to cover that with water. It's just enough water here to cover, and then we're going to get it up to a boil. This dish should make you, the entire time it will take you about 3.5 hours to make. But it's like, doing the laundry. A huge percentage of that is basically waiting around while something else happens. It's a lot like making beer in that respect. So we're going to heat this up, going to get it up to a boil, let it boil for about a minute, and then we're going to take it off the heat, cover it, and let it sit for 1 hour. Basically, it's a quick soak. I could have soaked these overnight if you have time to do an overnight soak. That would probably be a little bit more traditional. But this first step is very easy. Rinse your beans, kind of pick over them, make sure you don't have any bad ones or damaged ones. Put them in the pot, cover them with water, enough water to cover, at least an inch over, because we are going to get it up to a boil, so we're going to lose a little bit of water in the boil. And the soak, as a matter of fact, in order to account for the soak, I'm going to add a little bit more. So I have got about 1.5 inches over the level of my beans. You got that? Get them up to a boil, turn the heat off, lid, soak for an hour. See you in a few minutes. See you in an hour, I guess. Okay, so an hour soak, and when you're done with the beans, you are going to rinse them. And to be honest with you, I put mine in a large colander and rinse them out, and then I'm going to dump them back. Now that thick sliced bacon, by the way, hickory smoked or whatever you can get. If I'm really lucky, I can go down to a place like Sprouts where they slice their own bacon fresh and stuff. Sometimes Stater Brothers, and get it unsliced. But I guess you pretty much have to be there at the right time, like, the day they're actually doing that, and they have some that isn't sliced yet. I don't know. Anyway, so what I put the beans in before that you saw was a 6-quart pot. And that's going to be too small for this time out. So what I've got is my old boil pot from when I originally made beer, which is about a 16 or 20 quart. It really depends on the size of the batch you're making. By the way, I'm trying to cut these into less than 1/2 inch pieces. Just cutting right through the thing. If you've got a good enough knife, which I thought I did and apparently I don't, you can just slice them up. The kitchen shears are real handy. So I'm going to put the beans after the soak in a large colander, and I'm going to rinse them very good and get all that dirty water, color, bean smell off of them, or whatever that is. And then we're going to put it in the large pot, and we're going to add to that some of these ingredients. First one is the bacon, and I would say I'm making 3 pounds of beans, and I'm using 1 pound of bacon to flavor it. If I had to give you an amount of bacon to use per pound of beans, I guess about a half a pound would be livable. It really depends on how you want to do it. Also, as far as fat, one thing you can do with bacon is cook it in the oven for a little bit, maybe halfway cooked, and draw off some of the grease and dump that out, and then cut it up and use it in your thing. Now I've got, you can see here, some of my chilies. These are serranos, halved and cleaned out. Got the seeds out of them and such. I guess most people would use jalapeno. You honestly can use anything you want, any kind of chili. And here I'm going to say about 2 to 3 chilies per pound of beans. Also, obviously, that's going to be personalized based on your heat level. I don't mind food being hot, personally. I don't like it to be, Infierno or whatever it's called, where I can't hardly taste anything but the heat. It's just not the way I like food to be. I want to taste what's in it. I want to taste the basil and cilantro and all the other things. We get the seeds and most of the, I guess it's called the vein, out of these things. Usually we'll just, this is really easy. It's actually pretty easy in just about any chili you care to name that I've worked with, except for the Asian ones, which I haven't worked with. While I'm doing this, the capsaicin fumes are actually rising up off my cutting board into my throat as I talk. So, so I have a magic elixir here I use to clear my throat. And in a minute, I'm going to show you the rest of the ingredients. But everything we have here is just going to go into the pot. I just wanted to show you the one hard part. The one thing that actually takes a little bit of doing is getting rid of the chili innards and prepping up the bacon. That's really the only manual labor you have to do for this whole thing. So that being true, as far as cooking, this stuff is actually pretty easy to cook. Oh, there go the fumes again. Darn, the fumes, the fumes. Okay, so what I have here for my 3 pounds of beans is, I've got about 6 chilies, which I have halved and, like I said, de-seeded and all that. This is kind of gross looking. A pound of thick sliced bacon, which I have sliced up or cut up into the small pieces I can get. Shoot for 1/4 of an inch. If you got a really good knife, you should be able to just slice it right up. And here is about 2 dozen or so peeled garlic cloves. I got these ready to go from Fresh and Easy. If you've got fresh garlic, obviously that's an awesome way to go. Their stuff's pretty fresh, and this is pretty good. You're looking at around, I don't know, maybe 12 a pound cloves. I don't have homemade beer, so I'm using this stuff. It is from El Salvador, which makes it about the best Mexican beer in the world, because personally I don't believe there's such a thing as a good Mexican beer. So we're using Torino because it's relatively good tasting beer. 1 for the cook. And 3 for the beans, as well as a quart of chicken broth. You can use low fat, you can use free range, whatever you want to use. Okay, so we've got the beans. I've got 2 quarts of fresh water. I've got my bacon. I've got my chilies, I've got my garlic, I've got my beer that's going in there well, and I don't have all my other ingredients, but here we have some chopped up, let me think here. I am going to use about a tablespoon of thyme, about a tablespoon of oregano, and a couple of bay leaves, which I don't have. Here's the beginnings. My wife is on her way back now from the store because I thought I had bay leaves and I don't. Okay, now we're going to do a little moving around. Okay. There's the beans, ready to go. Those have been drained out and rinsed off real good. There's the 2 quarts of water. And here is our big giant pot that we're going to be using. So, We're going to go ahead and pause the film right now, and then when Steph gets back with the necessary ingredients, then we'll start dealing with it. And then maybe you can actually see my face because I'll have a cameraman. Cheers.